You were part of that first SummerSlam. I mean, who would have predicted that almost 40 years later, SummerSlam would still be a fixture? I mean,
Yeah.
when you go in for that kind of first night, I mean, that's a really high pressure kind of live pay-per-view to be part of, second only to WrestleMania. What are your memories of kind of that night and the nerves going into SummerSlam '88?
Well, fortunately, I had been at several arena shows before I was thrown out into that one. But as with everything else, you just knew everything was big every time we did something. And this is pretty much the way I've been throughout my career. I'm one of those people that has gets very focused and says, "This is the job I have to do." And you certainly have the nerves and everything going on, but you've got a job to do.
Mm.
And of course, that pressure was there to perform, and it didn't always go great. I always, people send me pictures. There's, especially now because of who's in the White House once again. But one of the first interviews I ever did on the pay-per-views was in
WrestleMania 5, wasn't it?
yeah, WrestleMania 5 in New Jersey and Atlantic City, and I did an interview with Donald Trump, and I look at that. That was one of the worst interviews I ever did. I stumbled through his name. I had this stupid earpiece in that was like falling out, and I'm trying to keep it in, and but you get through it. Yeah, and the bushwhackers came down and licked me to death. And I remember throwing it back to Gorilla, saying, "Gorilla, you ever have a dog that really likes you?" That's what. So Vince had a motto that he would say every production meeting when we had our big events, and it was "Nothing can go wrong." He would say that every time. And if
No
you
one
think of it,
knows.
you're like,
Yeah.
in your head, you're thinking, yes, 1,000 things can go wrong. What are you, crazy? But what he's really saying is, we're doing live television here. You can't back up. You've got to, and I always tell people, when you do live television, you drive without a rearview mirror. You can't go back and you can't even look at it. It's gone. Bye.
Yeah.
So you've got to just always look forward. When things go wrong, of course, you got to figure a way to get through it. And, you look at the countless interviews, well, things went wrong, but you never stop and you got through them. And Vince would say, well, and anybody who's on the other side looking in is going to think, yeah, I think they meant to do that.
Yeah, the fans didn't notice. The fans were just having the time of
Yeah.
their
I
life
mean,
watching.
remember the stuff with Gene when the background fell down and they rolled the wrong tape. It was a pre-tape, and he says, F it. And it was live, but it played live, so there was nothing they could do about it. But that's what was absolutely what made it so exciting at the same time.
Was
But
that
you were walking a
famous?
tightrope.
Was that? I can't remember which WrestleMania it is, but where Gene's there going, "Who's smoking a cigarette? Put that cigarette
Yeah,
out."
yeah.
Like that.
That was I think it was an interview with Randy and I asked him about that later, and he said, because I totally blanked, and that which was rare
Yeah.
for Gene to not know where he was going or whatever, and it was just a reaction, but still, it was kind of like, where did that come from? Yeah, yeah, I remember that. I do remember that, and I did ask him about it later, and he said because I didn't, I just totally blanked. But see, that was the why another genius of Gene. Gene always had something. You never saw him just totally boot something. It just didn't happen. He was an
Well,
amazing person.
incredible team, really. You're a part of because
Yeah.
obviously there's you, there's Gene, there's Lord Alfred Hayes, there's Bobby the Brain Heenan. I mean, what an incredible class you were a part of during your time in WWF. Just
Oh,
great minds.
it really is incredible to think that I was part of that broadcast team, and it's so sad to think that pretty much the only ones that are left are me and Jesse,
Yeah.
who's now back on the air, which is wonderful.
Yeah.
But yeah, those guys were just phenomenal. Gorilla Monsoon and Bobby, I still think to this day were the best broadcast team ever. I like Jesse and Vince together. I didn't like Vince with anybody else. I just don't think that and he certainly worked with a lot of the guys, but I thought him and Jesse were really good together because Jesse could, knock him down. They had a really good dynamic.
Yeah.
And everybody loved the fact that everybody knew Vince was the guy calling the shots, but this guy didn't give a crap. He would just give him the boots the whole broadcast, and it was pretty cool. But Bobby and Gorilla were just phenomenal, and it didn't matter what Bobby was doing. He was just a comedic genius to me. If he wasn't in professional wrestling, I think he would have been a very well known comedic actor, because he was just his timing and everything was just perfect, and he was the same when he was not in front of a camera. He was the same guy. So was Gene, and he always kept you laughing no matter what.
What I loved about Bobby, I mean, the chemistry you two had. I mean, he was just always hurling abuse at you, wasn't it? It was always a
Oh,
Mooney insult
yeah.
every chance he got. It was
Yeah,
wonderful.
nobody was safe. But people think, I've heard people say to me, did you like the fact that they throw to you and he'd go, who? And I tell them, are you kidding me? I mean, if you know how wrestling works, that's what they call putting you over. If they don't like you, that's the worst thing. I mean, literally, because they were not going to say anything. They're not going to put you over. Bobby put me over all the time. They actually had me do primetime before they, broke it up when they were doing the boardroom table. Remember when they had everybody that Kurt and Vince and Bobby, and they'd bring in somebody like Hillbilly Jim or somebody. And literally, Vince had me come in to do a live event center just so Bobby could destroy me. And I loved it. I loved it. It was just fantastic. And when I got the chance to work with him when we did primetime together with the live audience, I loved being his straight man. I cherished every moment, every opportunity they gave me to be next to him and do that stuff. So I knew then to appreciate it. And I certainly do. I have such great memories of the time that we got to work together.